One of the first things we learned in integrated science class as kids was that the boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. It was not quite clear if it was down to the fabled resilience of the Nigerian or an overextended euphoria brought about by the promise of a return to democracy in 1999. But looking back, it appears it took a good while for our water to hit boiling point. As our elders would say, now when person wake up, be morning. The events leading up to the March and April 2010 protests that birthed EiE cranked up the heat on the polity and left the collective of Chude Judonwu and Adebola Williams, young, articulate, boisterous Nigerians with unwavering belief in the Nigerian project, with no other choice but to champion organized response and affirmative action. Deploying dandy dose of cool communication, dogged determination, and soft power, aka celebrity and influencer juice. The duo working to organize the protest that fearlessly spoke truth to power and announced that indeed enough is enough.
So in January 2010, the Future Project hosts the annual Future Awards. The keynote speaker was Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. And at the time, she made mention of the fact that the demographics of Nigeria favored young people, and that young people should basically take their position in determining what happens in Nigeria. Fast forward to February of that year, Chude Judonwu wrote an email titled, "Where is the outrage?" And the content of the email was basically saying, when would young people use their voices so that the likes of Wole Soyinka and Tunde Bakare will not be the ones protesting on behalf of a future that they have less invested in and we have more to lose. Because at that time, Save Nigeria group had started and they'd already had a protest in Abuja, I believe. And one of the banners they had at the time actually was "Enough is enough." So the protest was organized and was set for March 16 in Abuja. And the idea was to march to the National Assembly. And there were three main things. President Yar'Adua, at that time, we weren't sure if he was dead or alive. There was fuel scarcity, and there were killings in Jos that now pales in comparison to what is happening in Nigeria now. A friend of mine, Bisola Edu, who is a current member of the board of EiE, invited me to the protest. I'd just finished my MBA, was back in Nigeria, and it sounded like fun. Going to Abuja to protest and have a good time with friends. Protest happened in Abuja March 16, was followed by a protest in Lagos on April 13, and this is all in 2010.
Shortly after the dust of the debut protest settled, the fledgling civil society group was back in the grind, prepping for the grandmother of all modern-day protests, #Occupy Nigeria.
It is not about subsidy. There can be no transformation without sacrifice. They are now willing to sacrifice anything for this nation.
Rumors around a proposed fuel price increase. We had a meeting and started strategizing about a response to that. I did some research around what the issues were and what the concerns were. We sent a letter to the then Minister of Finance, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, requesting for a meeting to have a conversation with young people around why it was proposed to remove subsidy and what the plan was from the federal government. A town hall was held, I believe, later that year as well, just talking about the issues. A clip for that has become now very popular around what the mathematics of continuing with the fuel subsidy is. Everybody woke up January 1st to the news that fuel subsidy had been removed. And because we had had the meetings and we were prepared, we could basically immediately kick into action. And we focused on two main things, really: information. So we presented the information in a way that was easy for people to access, and basically showing before subsidy, this is what the price of goods, general goods are. And once it's been removed, this is what it will become. And when Pastor Tunde and Save Nigeria started hosting the Ojota protest, we participated in that.
Time has come for the people of Nigeria to rise and say, enough, 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 enough.
And in addition to mobilizing people, we were very strong online in sharing information. So not just in Lagos, but we became a hub for people across the country who were then doing similar protests, letting us know when their protests will be, where they're meeting, where they're going, sharing pictures, sharing information, documenting, not just in Nigeria, but across the world, where Nigerians were holding similar protests. because they were happening in Germany, Switzerland, London, New York, DC, all across the globe. Nigerians were protesting on the same issue. And that was our particular role.
Next up was the hashtag Our NAS protest of 2013, which led to the hashtag Open NAS campaign.
Want the breakdown, then you will come and get the breakdown. Who did you ask? And I'm telling you today, if you want my salary, I have my pay slips and I will give it to you. There is no problem there. Hello,
Yes, so my people, the free open NAS hotline powered by over 10,000 petition signatures. We have achieved goal 1, and a breakdown of the National Assembly's budget is now public for the first time in 7 years. This shows the power you have to change things as a citizen. The purpose of this hotline is to create a community of Nigerian citizens who want to help strengthen our democracy and improve the services that our government provides for us. We believe that our elected officials from all parties must work for citizens and for Nigeria. Now we give them the job to do now, so they must do them. So this hotline provides information on governance and a quiz with a chance to win a 2,000 naira recharge card every month if you answer the questions correctly. Never stop being an active citizen, because at the way be that. One love, my people.
In an age where digital and social media are the dominant channels of engaging the youth, new media savvy EiE has taken full advantage of new media to connect with the primary target demography.
It is a central plank for us for reaching new constituencies, for bringing new ideas and ways of working, and trying to connect government to the citizens.
This year, with the support of SACE, we did a couple of things, actually. So our first session focused on active citizenship and basically just looking at how citizens engage. How can they use technology to engage, success stories, challenges, and how to overcome them.
In the past, communication was one way, specifically from government to citizens. Citizens had no opportunity to engage, had no opportunity to talk back, no opportunity to even question or decide or discuss what was happening. Now they have complete interaction.
We say that EiE leverages technology. So technology includes new media, and our audience are people primarily with access, who are literate to technology, as we like to say. New media has aided our work because new media, for the most part, is unfiltered, it's easily accessible, and it's cheaper compared to print media or radio. Over the years, what we've said very simply is that people that we have access to through new media, we say they're like a thumb. Your thumb is your only finger that can touch your other 4 fingers very easily. Your other fingers will struggle. They can touch them, but they would struggle. But your thumb can touch them very easily. So we say that people who have access to our information are like thumbs. So whatever you get online, what you can read in the newspapers, what you can find in books, considering that a significant percentage of our population is illiterate, which just means they are unable to read. Whatever you find, access information you have access to, take it as a thumb and then share it with 4 other people. And so the 4 people can be your siblings, they can be people you work with, they can be people in your neighborhood. But the idea is that if one person shares with another 4, and those 5 then share with 4 other people each, and those then share with 4 other people each, the exponential impact will be huge. And that's how we use new media to educate and share information.
EiE is the only organization that has hosted conversations on citizens, governance, and technology at all 6 editions of the Social Media Week Lagos. Guests include Omobaba Johnson, former Minister of Communication 2013 to 2015, Malam Nasir El Rufai, Kaduna State Governor 2017, and Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, INEC Chairman 2018.
I want you to recognize that most people above the age of 50 find confronting technology quite difficult.
Up next was the New Media and Governance Conference, a conference on the interconnectivity between new media, citizens, and governance. Co-hosted in 2012 with the Yaradua Foundation, co-hosted in 2016 with Budget and Paradigm Initiative Nigeria. EiE also organized engagements on internal party politics and selecting candidates. Right after recording another resounding success with a conversation on party politics, EiE delivered a series of electricity town hall meetings. These are interactions with citizens on how to resolve issues around estimated billing and other power problems.
Bundling of PHCN, we decided to help citizens navigate the challenges of getting power. And a big one was metering. Very simply, metering allows you to only pay for what you use. Estimated billing doesn't do that. And it's a consistent complaint that because estimated billing allows the discos to charge more, there is not an incentive to meter Nigerians. So Nigerians are struggling to get meters, people are having to pay to get meters, which should technically be free. So we're basically just doing town hall meetings in different communities and letting them know what their rights are, how to go about getting meters, how to complain, what the complaint mechanisms are. And a particularly good one is the Ararami community, which basically decided not to pay their bills until they got meters. And they complained to the Ikeja Disco. They came on our radio show. And while they were on our radio show, Ikeja Disco then reached out to them and had a meeting around adjusting their bills and metering the community. So that's a great example of citizens taking action and following through. And, well, they're not a government agency in this case, but an organization responding and engaging them.
2 Ikeja Disco Town Hall meetings, Ibadan Disco Town Hall meeting, and a live town hall meeting on Channels TV with Minister of Power, Works and Housing and stakeholders were organized.
Power is produced on an ongoing and continuous basis. And therefore, whether you are an individual consumer, whether you are a government department, billing and settlement of bills are an ongoing and continuing reality of the industry.
EiE, working with partners all over Nigeria, organized the One Voice Nigeria rallies in February 2017 and February 2018. The first was a nationwide protest, while the second rally focused on voters' mobilization.
I stand with Nigeria. One Voice Nigeria. I stand with Nigeria. And they tell people something there. Some people they tell me on social media. Then because they will not see money spent. Say we collect money from the government way past. And they tell them, I don't know Jonathan, I don't care who Jonathan be. I don't care who Buhari be. I don't stay here because of Buhari. You understand me? And they here about the governance for this nation. Both tell ourselves the truth. Everybody for this nation I be the government of himself. Yes, sir. Maybe you don't provide water for yourself. Maybe you don't give yourself light. Now only in Nigeria now you will see where person will get 3 generators. 4 backup generators.
And we want 100,000 people, get at least 10 people each to register to vote.
If not 1,000 people come, they feel they do on sharp. Register all of them, sharp.
And of course, there has been a series of election debates which are organized to help citizens select credible candidates that they want to vote for.
Your company, AfriInvest, facilitated the 30 billion water storm funding from the capital market and the $225 million from the World Bank. Can you please tell us how much as commission did your company take?
The desire of the people of Ondo State against the rule of conducting elections, of course, as a lawyer, I will challenge it. But if the election were to be conducted freely and fairly, I will concede victory and I will congratulate whoever emerges.
This is the select part of the RSVP. That's Register, Select, Vote, Protect campaign. EiE has co-hosted 14 debates from 2011 till date. Another major milestone is the election monitoring using Revoda.
We're able to show in 2011 and 2015 the app that we have for elections, Revoda, the use of it follows Nigeria's broadband map, which simply means that the people who have access to use it are people who are connected, who have access to the internet.
Developed in 2011 and updated periodically, Revoda was recently used by volunteers in Edo State and Ondo State governorship elections. Osun West senatorial elections, and Lagos local government elections. To ensure that the message of active citizens' participation in governance is top of mind, the hashtag Office of the Citizen radio program was created and launched. It has enjoyed warm reception and is currently in 7 states.
EiE has programs on about 8 stations across the country, Gobe, Kano, Calabar. And the idea is basically taking what we're doing on social media, off social media, and bringing it offline. So 1 hour on those stations, with a topic every week, and citizens get to call in, ask questions. So we educate and we engage with the radio programs that we have across the country.
Make we go to all the places where we talk, so we would like to go before. Make we go, make we see. What you gonna do for real? Make we feel, make we check, and if not do it, they use we go know. But now after we go
Yemi Adamolekun. She's Executive Director, Enough is Enough Nigeria. Raised on the campus of the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University. She started her university education at the University of Lagos. She has a first degree in mathematics and economics from the University of Virginia, an MSc in development studies from the London School of Economics, and an MBA from Oxford University Said Business School. Yemi had a diverse career spanning the public and private sectors in the US and Nigeria. She cares deeply about educating and empowering Nigerians to know their rights and responsibilities. As an activist, she was at the forefront of the groundbreaking Occupy Nigeria protest and continues to challenge the government to keep its processes transparent.
Then you will come and get the breakdown. We've been asking. Who did you ask? And I'm telling you today, if you want my salary, I have my pay slips and I will give it to you. There is no problem there.
These things have happened. So for the presidency to respond in this manner is definitely a cause for concern. How the hell does working for 4 years get you to be paid 10 million naira monthly for life? But any candidate who's running for office who does not want to be subject to being questioned and challenged by other candidates, there should be questions asked about why. What are you afraid of? Their right to protest. The government cannot. But they've been quite irresponsible. They've consistently shown they're not interested in doing it. The reality of a Nigerian's life is not what is in the Constitution. So if our issue is the fact that we don't believe we're being fairly treated in this country, then that's what we need to address. So what's the solution? Stop electing idiots. My job as a citizen is to hold you, my duty bearer, accountable. Find out who your representative is and call them and ask them, are you thinking? For everybody who's here who can influence 4 people, who can encourage the 4 people to influence another 4, then there is impact.
This administration, that the highest office in our country, according to our constitution,
is that of the citizen.
The office of the citizen is the highest office in the land.
We will do our bit in mobilizing those who have shown commitment and those who are interested and those who are saying we're tired, we want to do something.
Thank you, Philip. Welcome, everyone. Maupe Ogun is having technical difficulties, so she's not able to join us yet. So I figured, hey, I'll interview myself until she joins the conversation. Thank you very much for joining and your interest in hearing about my EiE journey. We'll still wait for questions that Maupe would have, but I'm sure maybe some people have questions based on the documentary. So the first documentary you saw was done when we did a fundraising dinner in 2018. So it is a bit outdated in terms of content, but we thought at least for those who wanted a quick glimpse about EiE's work, it would provide that. And then the blurb was just about clips of different things that I've said in the last couple of years. So I'm not quite sure how to play this. Maybe just open the floor if people have specific questions and we can start with that, or Dapo, okay. All right, Dapo, if you can. Philip, if you would unmute Dapo, if Dapo wants to speak.
Hi, good evening, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, good to see you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
All right, so You shouldn't interview yourself today, man.
I should. Hopefully, no one will join us soon. But you yourself, I'm sure you can interview me, in fact. But go ahead, please.
Right. So, I mean, a bit of background to this, and was how I. So, for those that don't know, I'd worked at EiE, and the reason why I did so was because in 2017, I'd stumbled on some Yemi Adamolekun online and EiE, and then I was just curious to know about who she was and what EiE was doing. Particularly, what struck me then was the fact that she has a lot of degrees from the schools I really wanted to go to, and I felt like she was just wasting away at EiE in that sense. I mean, I was someone that has this degree somewhere in top schools across the world, in Oxford, work at EiE. So let me ask you straight up, why? Why this? Why have you chosen this path?
Interesting. Thanks. Not quite. To be honest, it wasn't a deliberate choice. My career path was deliberate. I found mathematics quite easy as a child. So 2 + 2 = 4. It always equals 4. Unlike if you do a bit of the more artsy stuff or more deep science, where depending on how you mix your materials, you can get different results. I just found science or mathematics rational. So yeah, so first degree, pretty basic. And after that, I sort of got an interest in development work. I was always been passionate about Africa, Nigeria, and development. So my second degree in development studies was also aligned in that regard. And then after that, I got an offer, funny enough, I applied to go to business school. So I came back to, at the time I lived in the US, came back to the US, got an offer to apply to business school. And I wanted to go to Stanford University, got accepted to Stanford, but I had made a deal with God that if I got accepted into Stanford, I would work for him for a year. Now, at the time, I don't know, maybe immaturity or whatever, I felt I needed to do that right then. I easily could have gone on to work, go to Stanford, and then work for God after that. And there were a few other sort of personal things going on at the time. So I declined my offer. Actually, no, I asked Stanford if I could defer it for a year. And Stanford said no, that if I was either going to come or they would withdraw the offer. So I decided not to go. And at the time, joined the staff of a church in the Maryland area, a parish of the Redeemed Christian Church of God called Jesus House, and worked there for a couple of years. I applied to Stanford again since they had removed their offer, but I was not accepted the second time I applied. I got tired in about 2005 and decided I was moving back to Nigeria, and I came back home. I joined the staff of Alder Consulting. I enjoyed my job, but I was also looking for a change. And since I'd wanted to go to business school, I decided to apply again. But by that time, I'd had a few more years of work experience. 2 years was ideally what I wanted to do, but it also seemed like a long time. And I applied to Stanford again, if I'm not mistaken, and they still didn't accept me. But I applied to Oxford and they accepted me. So I did the 1-year MBA at Oxford, came back, planned to work. But as I said in the video, I was doing my youth service when I came back. Bisola invited me to a protest. I said, sounds like fun. And I went. Now, after the protest, because I was doing my youth service, I had time. So all the meetings that we had, I would take notes, I would follow up and all of that. And when we got money to do election-related work in 2011, we hired staff, we opened an office in January. And the first project manager we hired started in January, but quit in February. Elections were April 2011. And the team, Chude, Adebola, everybody said, well, since you've been doing a lot of the background work, why don't you just lead up until elections in April 2011? And after elections, we would find somebody else. 10 years later, they are still looking for somebody else. Now, I easily could have quit and looked for somebody else, but because Enough is Enough was not planned, we didn't plan to have an organization. We planned to have a protest. But the question then was, you can't protest every time you're upset. And that's when we decided to focus on election-related work and get more young people involved in elections and engaged in elections. So that was really what set up the organization. So we didn't have a 10-year plan, we didn't have a 5-year plan, we didn't have a plan. The plan was just April 2011 elections. So after that, it was then, okay, what do we do now?
so because a lot of it was very fluid, I just kind of got stuck, if I really want to be honest. I got stuck in trying to make sense of the organization and trying to give it life and figure out what it is that we were going to do. And 2011 became 2012, 2013, 2014. And by the time we celebrated our 5th anniversary in 2015, I'd found a place that I could use my voice. Nigeria, I mean, I grew up in Ife, small town, a village, in fact. But even as campus kids, there was nothing we felt we couldn't do. And the Nigeria that I grew up in was not the Nigeria I was living in, and certainly wasn't the Nigeria I wanted to live for my children. So I guess what EiE was able to do and what EiE stood for aligned with my beliefs, aligned with the Nigeria I wanted to see. So it became, from being stuck in trying to give EiE life, it became trying to use EiE to get Nigeria to where I thought it could be. Yeah, and so 10 years later, I'm still here. I hope that answers your question, Dakolo.
Well, it does. I mean, I had a film about Maupe is here, so I'll just hand over to step back as you continue.
You know what? To give Maupe a few minutes to sort of, go ahead with your next question, and then Maupe will take over from there. Go ahead. What was your follow-up?
Right. So you had mentioned that you found a place you could use your voice, and the idea was to leave a Nigeria that could be better for your own kids. And my question would be that 10 years now, do you think you've actually seen the results you want? I mean, if a child was born 10 years ago, I mean, we know what that child would be now. So do you think 10 years, I haven't done this for 10 years, have you seen that Nigeria you wanted then?
Oh, definitely not. And we're quite far from it. But do I believe that the work that you, and the rest of the team at EiE have done has dented that or made an impact? Most definitely. Definitely not. I mean, we're talking a country of 200 million people, different interests, different things happening in different places. But if I look over the last 10 years, when EiE started, social media didn't have the clout nor the voice it does as it does now. But most importantly, I believe with everything that citizens weren't as aware of the voice that they had. I mean, if you remember, in 2011, after elections, when politicians came online, they all ran away because citizens were not doing the yes, sir. I mean, radio and TV, as I say, is unidirectional. You speak and everybody listens. Nobody can ask you questions except for the likes of Maupe who are on set. But those of us that are at home can't ask you questions. But social media leveled that. So when they all came on Twitter and would say something, and Twitter is 160 characters. So nobody can say, excuse sir, your excellency. They will just go straight to the point and they will tell you you are lying. They will tell you that that's not true and provide receipts to back it up. So politicians did not like that because they couldn't, it was a very unfamiliar territory. Now, fast forward 10 years, not only are politicians back, but they've also created a whole industry of social media aides, media assistants, of giving jobs to young people who then represent them online. We didn't have that 10 years ago. We launched Office of the Citizen 5 years ago, or now 6 years when EiE turned 5. EiE as an organization owns the trademark for Office of the Citizen, the logo and the phrase, but we've left it as sort of common property. And for me, it's always encouraging when I see it as people's DP, as what in WhatsApp, on Twitter, in Facebook, that people have owned it. I'm excited when I hear people talk about calling their senators. EiE is the only organization that has a platform where for as many senators' numbers, and you were instrumental to curating that, senators' numbers, House of Rep numbers, local government chairman's numbers, governors' numbers, email addresses, is all there in the public domain. The constituency office addresses, that was not there 10 years ago. So when citizens give reports, and when EiE does campaigns and we tell people, engage your senator, and people come back and say, oh, I called, and they do, or I sent a text, and they do screen grabs of their exchanges with their senators or House of Rep member, that for me is exciting. Is it anywhere near where it should be? At all. But year on year, more and more citizens are finding their voice, are using their voices, and more importantly, they're seeing results. One of my favorite stories is about, I forget his name, the senator from Ondo, who voted in support of underage marriage. And because it was a constitutional amendment, we had requested for the breakdown. So we knew that that's how he voted. His constituency called him home and basically asked him that, Oga, what happened? He prostrated and begged and said he wasn't paying attention, that he didn't mean to vote. For me, that is power. Unfortunately, it's also the reason why they are pushing back against electronic voting, because that's what it provides. Once we have electronic voting, you can challenge the people that represent you with their voting records. And that's where we're getting there. They will fight all they want, but we'll get there. So to answer your question, is it what I would like to see? No. Is it where I think we would be 10 years ago? Honestly, not sure, because 10 years ago, I probably didn't think I would still be here in 10 years. But have we made a difference? Without a shadow of a doubt, definitely. So, Maupe, should we come to you? Are you ready for us? Thank you, Dapo. Thank you very much. Dapo left EiE last year, but he's one of the reasons EiE is EiE. Great work and great time of service. Thank you very much, Dapo. Mark, are you ready? Dapo? Do you want Dapo to take over your work? I don't hear Maupe's voice. She's still muted. All right, Dapo, go ahead. And I guess Maupe will jump in whenever she's ready. Any more questions?
All right, yes, I do. So I wanted to ask you personally now that.
On mute.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
I
can hear you. I've been struggling to say, I'm here. I must apologize most profusely. This is very much unlike me, but this week has been a...
Uh-oh, we lost you. There's a problem with her audio connection because her mic is on, but it's not moving. So we would, that was it.
Oh dear. Oh, hello.
Now
can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Go ahead, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, I think it's froze now. Hello, can you hear me now?
Clearly, Maupe, we can hear you.
Hello?
Okay.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Obviously, you can hear us. Okay, so I've muted Maupe. Philip, work with her to log out and log back in. Dapo, back to you. You have given yourself work today, so we're here. Go ahead.
All right, so my next question would be that, would you have chosen something else? Looking back at 10 years, would you have decided to do something else if you could go back 10 years from now?
I think if maybe I hadn't attended the protest, the path of my life that I would have seen me working professionally my previous work was as a management consultant. So working as a consultant, but then spending a lot of my free time as a volunteer supporting organizations like EiE, either writing, I would definitely have shown up for protest freely. And I would not have worked for an organization that didn't allow me to protest. So that would have been a criteria. So I'll have shown up for protest freely and then donated time in whatever way to support organizations like EiE.
All right, thank you. And I know that while at EiE, we've had these conversations before about the cost of doing this kind of work you do. And so I would say to others, what did this cost you? I know you've told us how that sometimes I'd have to think about, people would ask, why are you doing this thing? What did this cost you? Yeah, just give us a sense of why you are still in. I mean, I did it for 3 years and I'm like, okay, well, 10 years. What did this cost you? What do you think it has cost you so far? What have you, I wouldn't say so far, but what do you think you had to give up for this job? I mean, it's a thankless one at that. So what do you think you had to give up for this?
Thank you, that one. Interesting question. I'll say one thing off the top of my head is financial comfort. As I would tell you guys in office, part of why I could do this work is really because I didn't have, I don't have, as you can see from my video, my uniform is very simple, same black shirt, so it helps me. I don't have to worry about what I'm wearing too much. But I think I don't have a lot, I don't need money for a lot of things. But even though, that's even so. I think the fact that I could live at home, my father has a house in Lagos and I live at home. So the fact that I'm not paying rent helps, because on my salary, if I had to pay rent, I wouldn't be able to live where I live. Let me put it that way. So, so financial comfort, the ability to be able to travel. I love traveling. So the ability to just buy a ticket and decide that I want to go to Accra or Dubai or wherever it is, I am not able to do that. Ability to support people. I think it's one of the things I would love to do a lot more. Just to, Nigeria comes with its challenges. So ability to be able to support people financially is not something I'm able to do as much. So yeah, one will be financial comfort. Secondly, your personal life. I think in a way, my personal life has suffered for this. In terms of my circle of friends, quite narrow. So I've kept a lot, my old friends are my old friends. But in ability to make new friends is also very limited, if I want to use that word. My Aluta people are my new circle of friends. And also people tend to be a bit wary because I'm critical of government. So they kind of look at me side-eye, like, in that regard. And what else? And a lot of time, to be honest, because at a point in time, EiE had 4 people. There were 4 of us that did the work that EiE did. As of last year, I think we peaked at 11. So because we're not a large team, and one of the things that also contributed to that is that mentally, I always told myself that if I have to beg or borrow, I would always ensure that I could pay staff salaries. So what invariably that then happened was that the team was then small, so that I wouldn't be under pressure to be able to have a large team. So based on that, we've had to stretch. So I have had to do a lot more than I would have loved to do, just because we didn't have as many people. So in terms of my time, it's also taken an incredible amount of my time. I would have loved to read more and do a bit more fun stuff. But yeah, that's what I would say. Thank you, Dakolo. Thank you very, very much. Glad to have you as my interviewer. But I think Maupe is back, I hope.
I'm hoping you can hear me now. Can you hear me?
We can.
Fantastic. I apologize most profusely. This is not me. I got a notice that I have to travel to Lagos tomorrow, and I have been running around Abuja like a headless chicken. And I remember this morning and I forgot by evening. So please accept my most profuse apologies. And Dakolo, thank you so much for standing in the gap, for doing a fantastic job. I could practically sit in on this conversation and just watch you do the job. But Yemi, you have come a long way, and I celebrate with you as EiE clocks 10, and you guys are still.
EiE is 11.
Oh, you're 10. EiE is 11. So, and I still remember my very first meeting with you. I think in person I met with you in Anambra, but I saw you before that time on television where you guys went to the National Assembly, and I still remember you thumping the senator's chest. I can never forget that. But tell me, coming from there to where you currently are right now, what would you say that experience has taught you in dealing with not just lawmakers now, but in dealing with politicians in general, especially those who occupy office?
Thank you, and thank you for not only accepting to do this, but trying to make it work. I'm deeply grateful. I think the biggest lesson, to be honest, is that there's a need for good cop and bad cops, and also clarity about where one stands. In the civil society space, there are organizations that do work with lawmakers, do work with politicians, and that's capacity building, training, and that takes a certain type of temperament that can engage, that can sit with them while they're lying, and not tell them they're lying, but either find a way to say, oh, how can we do this differently? So the capacity to do that is I admire it. I don't have it. But it's also necessary because, again, they're in service. And to the degree that they want to be supported or need help or guidance in delivering on their mandates, as many organizations or individuals that can help them should do that. And that's for the good cops, if I want to use that word. Now, for bad cops, which I will put myself in that category, there's just a need to put people on their toes. And I tell my team all the time that my default when dealing with government is that they're not out to serve, so that they must be made to serve. And they must be made to realize that their primary duty is to serve. And we've seen it over and over again, that it's until you sort of push, I mean, you interview them all the time, you ask the difficult questions, they answer one way, you come again another way, that they must be put on their toes and constantly reminded that your primary responsibility is to serve the people of Nigeria. And anything and everything you do should be through that lens. So that's really where I would say I've learned, and being comfortable. And I guess that would be it. Being comfortable as a bad cop, if I want to use that word.
Well, I'm glad that you've owned your space and that you finally honed, because I think that it's something that had to be honed after a while, to say, this is my personality, this is how I perceive it, and this is how I'm choosing to, hone my area of expertise, so to speak. And I think it takes a lot of self acceptance, and also I don't know when you do sit though, because sometimes you would certainly experience pushbacks, in terms of style, in terms of methods. I'm sure that largely everybody agrees with the motive. We all want good governance, but in terms of how people want it to be achieved might be where they might say, okay, no, I differ a little. When you sit sometimes, do you think, I mean, usually we're our own greatest critics. Do you think that, or maybe I should phrase that differently and say, how did you come to the realization that this is me, this is going to be my style, I'm bad cop? And I think that there is a need for bad cops in this business.
Thank you. I think, honestly, it was a part of a journey of sort of self-discovery. I'm my father's child. I grew up with a father that was very, how do I phrase it? Very sharp. My father was very clear about his qualifications. My father didn't suffer fools. And my father would tell you he didn't suffer fools. Now, as a young girl, first daughter, oldest child, only daughter, I was also daddy's girl. And I admired that a lot in my dad. He was very well respected in his field. My father was a professor of public administration, respected for his qualifications, respected for his output as an academic. And I respected the fact that people gave him his space and just said, that is Ladipo Adamolekun, that's who he is. And so people, to use your words, he owned himself and people just sort of accepted him for who he was. And I thought that was pretty cool. My father was brilliant. He said what he needed to say. In a sense, as they say now, I said what I said, deal with it. That was my dad. My mother, on the other hand, much softer, more of a diplomat. And again, I mean, she was trained as a nurse, guidance counselor, had a degree in psychology, had a PhD in guidance and counseling. So my mother was more a people person. So, and I remember growing up as a child, I just thought my mother was too soft, as in, God, like, can you say something? But that was my mom. And my mom would tell me then that you can't be like your father. You can't get away with talking the way your father does because he's a man. At that time, I just thought, whatever, that's, whatever. Now, my father also encouraged it because obviously I was like him. Now, as I got older, he didn't encourage us that much because even as a parent, it now came across as rude. Now, Nigerian parents, we don't have this sit down conversation where we kind of talk about this is who you are, blah, blah. I just realized that what my father used to celebrate, he no longer celebrated, and I didn't understand it. So it took me in my 20s, and I would say probably early 30s, until the pieces started falling into place. And I guess also being older, dealing with people, I guess, I started working, engaging people, that it started making sense what this was about, why I was the way I was, why I'd owned it. And for a season of my life, it was like, this is who I am, deal with it. But as I've now also even gotten older, I'm now a lot more aware of it and more deliberate, or try to be more deliberate about how I engage. So yes, there's a part of it that's owning being bad cop. There's also a part that's also realizing that, yes, you can be a bad cop, but still communicate in a way that doesn't hurt, if I want to use that word. Still communicate in a way that doesn't hurt. And that's in dealing with people. So my good cop, bad cop is not just government, in just even dealing with people generally. Now, in the context of government, I don't care as much about hurting, and that's the truth. So in talking to people that I meet in the general course of my life, I try to be a bit more deliberate about that, so I don't come across as hurtful. But when it comes to governance, I think my anger and my frustration that this is really just not necessary. Nobody put a gun to your head and said, come and run for public office. Nobody said, come and serve. You left your house and said you wanted to. You decided you wanted to run. This is my money that you want to steal or be spending anyhow. Quite frankly, I don't care how you feel. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I will certainly put that at the back of my mind if ever I decide to run for public office.
I don't care how you're feeling. If you think I'm rude.
No, what I mean is, I mean, oftentimes, and I think I put this question to Obi Ezekwesili, and I asked her then, I said, how does it feel? A few of those people are your personal friends. You've served with them in government before, and now you're out on the street saying they're doing nonsense in government. How did it feel looking at Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala in the face and saying, bring back our girls? I mean, making her uncomfortable in government, and she's your personal friend. Right now, I know that she's not on good terms with Nasir El-Rufai. I don't know about that, but personally, but she's not. I mean, everybody knows Obi and her stance on what the APC has done so far, so good in Nigeria. How do you still face your friends? I mean, do you cut them off personally because you disagree? I mean, do you throw the baby out of the bathwater, so to speak? Did you ever have such a? I don't know your own personal friends, but I know that happen to know hers because she served as a minister in Obasanjo's government, you know. So did you ever have a situation whereby people whom you know, certainly I'm sure you must have a few friends, maybe those who you went to school with, those whom you met in the course of your life, are in government, serving in one capacity or another, or even some of those with whom you started the struggle, so to speak, who are occupying offices? I know you've already made reference to, you know, people looking at you with side eye, or, you know, but how were you able to manage that part of your relationship with them, if ever you had that sort of, you know, that sort of scenario with them?
Thank you. We haven't gotten there, and it's actually, thank you for flagging that. I'll keep that at the back of my mind. My friends are just making their way into that space, and we haven't had an opportunity where we would clash, in a sense, publicly. At the moment, most of my friends are technocrats, so they are special advisors, and so our work wouldn't put us sort of head to head. An interesting example, for example, is Akin Oyebode, a good friend of mine who's Commissioner of Finance in Ekiti State. Aki and I share similar upbringing. Both our parents, our fathers were lecturers. His at the University of Lagos, mine at EFE. And we shared similar worldviews, both in terms of politics and in terms of governance. Now, one of the things, and Akin, we've had Akin on EI's platform a few times, that I've admired about Akin as a friend and also from afar, is his ability to manage being in government and also being clear when he doesn't agree. So he comes across as someone who says, I understand that I'm a servant and this is what I am doing. Now, if the administration I serve in is doing something that I don't agree with, obviously I'm not going to take out a full page ad and say I don't agree. But in a private conversation, Akin will be honest. And I also know that Akin would find ways not to put himself in positions where he has to defend something he doesn't agree with. So the fact that in conversations, there's that deliberate effort is something that I admire. But I also recognize that you can't be in government and spend your time criticizing everything that the government you serve does. But you must also be clear that where you serve gives you an opportunity to serve. And so for me, I think it's sort of that difference. Now, as we move forward, if I then find friends who our values then diverge in the sense that what I thought we shared is now different from how you are serving, we will have a conversation.
No, so what I mean is, as well, I'm very glad that you brought up that example. Democracy is about numbers, right? At the end of the day, when people take decisions, it's not about the minority, it's about majority leading the day. It's not the views of the minority. Now, assuming he were, say, maybe in a state house of assembly, just trying to, and then maybe a state of assembly took some decision that has, you know, I don't know, the public generally doesn't agree with, and there is, you know, huge criticism, and maybe not that he has to defend it, but assuming you were to slam, as we'd like to do, the State House of Assembly, or even the National Assembly, or even maybe say the House of Representatives or the Senate, if that was where he was, would you do that knowing that there are people who did not agree and maybe did their best, you know, to fight against something that everybody are not particularly happy with? That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, I mean, in that regard, it actually makes it quite simple because everybody owns their record in an assembly. So I can publicly say that, well, I voted against it, and that excuses you. But it's if you're not willing to say how you voted. I mean, I remember one of my first calls with my senator in Lagos, when I called to ask him how he voted on a matter, he was livid. How dare you? Who are you? Da, 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 da. Because first it was like, are you a journalist? No. Are you a member of my party? No. So what do you want? Well, I'm in your constituents and I just wanted to know how you voted on this matter. He couldn't believe I was calling him. I was just like, okay, calm down. You represent me. So technically how you vote should be a reflection of what I want. Now, we went on to be friends in that regard, but I think that for me is an issue. So if Akin is a member of the State House of Assembly, and I'm asking Akin, this thing that passed, how did you vote on it? And Akin is trying to tell me a story that something.
I've used a very terrible example. Sorry, maybe let me use minister. Like this refinery now, that is a big issue. Rehabilitating a dead refinery with $1.5 billion. And he has to defend it because he's a minister in government, right? And we journalists, we don't differentiate whether you're a minister of state for petroleum or you're a minister of women affairs. The moment you're out of that cabinet and we catch you anywhere, we can put a mic to your mouth and say, hey, FEC just agreed to rehabilitate. What are your thoughts on it? You're a part of FEC, you know, and he has to defend it. Can he say...
If I'm questioning him or we're protesting, if Akin is minister, we're very good. If Akin is minister of petroleum, which is not, but if he's minister of petroleum, I will lead a protest to his office. I'll be like, okay, does this make sense to you? And I'll remind him that you worked in a bank. Look at the numbers. We will spend this amount of money to rehabilitate a refinery we want to sell. As a banker, do you think these numbers make sense? Then yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, but the thing for you is, at that point, will friendship matter? I mean, yes, I mean, as a journalist, I have been put in very difficult situations where every day there are questions. I watch people say things that go against my grain, puts it that way, go against my grain. And in the spirit of fairness and balance, you always have to take the other side, and you have to try and question everybody equally. And, you know, don't try and lean towards one area over another. I find out that oftentimes the way I tend to do that is that I breathe down harder on those whom I agree with. I don't know if you find yourself in such a situation, but those people that I agree with oftentimes understand that it's from a good place. Do you think that you have that sort of understanding with your friends, or do you think that they will think this Yemi is too hard, go safe? Let her come and sit in my shoes and let her understand how it is.
I believe if we're really friends and we do have shared values about Nigeria and governance, you will understand. If you don't understand and take it personal that you think I'm attacking you as a person, then we need to have a conversation about our friendship and our understanding of what is at stake. Yes.
I agree completely. Let me take it to our journey so far. And I think that Dakolo asked a few questions on that. So, I mean, as to whether or not you're happy where we are, and whether the amount of progress that you thought we'll make is sufficient. Sadly, I mean, I have to agree with you that we haven't made the kind of progress that we all thought would have made when Nigeria returned to a democracy in 1999. However, do you think that it is also because the people did not understand on time the powers that they wielded in their office? Yes, in the office that they occupy as citizens and employers of those in office. Do you think that this journey has taken this long and has been this laborious because of that deficiency?
Without a shadow of doubt, without a shadow. And we've seen it in the work that we've done. So when in 2014, Tosin Bucknor, God rest her soul, offered that, look, I'm a radio personality, I have a program, how can I support Enough is Enough's work? And she decided on Mondays to give us 30 minutes of her belt. And we started what we called No Wahala Monday. And the idea was we would come on radio, pick a topic. And the idea was not to get citizens to vent, but to help them solve their wahala. And it was really just usually, this is the problem in my community. And I or any of my colleagues that were there would be, well, the person responsible is your local government chairman, or the person responsible is Commissioner of Works. If we had the phone number, we would give it and encourage them to follow up. As citizens, own your office and hold these people accountable. Without fail, people were always like, I can call them. They didn't just understand that they had the power to ask them questions. They had the power to hold them accountable. And that, for me, captured exactly what you're saying. When I talk about our governance journey, I say, if we think about it from three perspectives. Number one, culture. I'm a Yoruba girl. And in every other ethnic group in Nigeria, respect of elders is huge. So we defer to people who are older than us. And it's also in our language. Sir, Ma, Your Excellency, Honorable. It's very hard to prefix a sentence, except for journalists who are trained to do so, with Your Excellency and Your Honorable, and then follow it about that $5 billion contract. Do you want to explain to us what happened? But for a lot of people, because they're older, and especially young people, because they're older and they're in a position of authority, we engage them differently. So there's a lot of emming and awing, there's a lot of deference and respect. Rotimi Amechi said it a while ago, that if you start throwing water at us and tomatoes, then maybe we will start behaving better. He actually said it, that because citizens don't react, that public officials can do whatever they want. And so that's really quite interesting in also understanding that dynamic as well, that because they don't get any pushback, they feel they can just run roughshod over citizens. So culture, a big thing. A second thing is religion. Religion has lobotomized our minds. And I mean, I'll speak for Christianity, which is the faith I practice. Even in our language, God is in control. God will do it. And then we spend inordinate amount of hours at night vigil, praying for electricity, praying for all things that are social services that should be provided by a government. And again, it numbs the way we engage as well, because you've abdicated responsibility to God. And then thirdly, military rule. I think we underestimate as well just how much military rule affects how we engage governance.
Sorry, I'm having trouble. Please try in a little while.
How we engage governance. So under military rule, government is them. People are afraid of being shot or being killed. My father says he's afraid of two people who carry guns and doctors, because both groups of people can kill you. So again, how we engage government influenced by that. So to your point, we get democracy in 1999, and there's no deliberate effort to teach citizens on the dynamics of power, on how they as citizens actually employ the people who are in government. So they should hold them accountable. They should be able to ask them questions. And that's the journey that we're now going through now, in getting citizens to understand that they have power, to understand that they can speak, to understand that they have voice. From our radio show in 2014, one station, at the peak of it, I think we were in 27 radio stations, 27 states across the country, doing a radio show once a week called Office of the Citizen. And without fail, those are the types of testimonies we will get. Really? We can do that? We didn't know. We were not aware. blah, blah, blah. Constantly, people just not knowing, not being aware, not being engaged. And that again ties back to where my disposition with government is. I remember Samade Yemi a while ago led a campaign to ensure that the Constitution is taught in schools. It was shut down. We've talked about the challenges we've had with teaching our history and that not being a deliberate act. We've talked about teaching about civic education. So when, as a government, we're not deliberate about teaching citizens their rights and responsibilities, then for me, it doesn't come across that you want to deliver on those things, which is why government officials don't like being challenged. You are there to serve. Why do you get upset if you're asked a question? So the dynamics of that, I think, really very much speaks to what you're talking about. So that journey is hard work. It is hard work to teach people about their rights. It's hard because it's a constant step of not only teaching, but also amplifying success stories. So people realize that it does work. But in situations where the conditions of the country are so difficult that people are trying to live, it even makes it even more challenging, so to speak.
Speaking with you is so stimulating. I mean, and you know, I don't mean to flatter at all. I hope that you're writing a book. I sincerely hope that you're documenting from your experience. I mean, I remember just how ignorant I was when I came into journalism and how I happened upon the profession. So, I wanted to be a newscaster. That's what I wanted to be. I didn't know anything about asking questions. That story, this is not about me, it's about you. But I'm trying to illustrate just how much citizens do not know. And this is me after a first degree. This is after a university degree, not even knowing that Nigeria is supposed to be governed by something called a constitution, or led in general by something called a constitution. I knew that after my first degree. So you can imagine just what level of education exists for many other people out there. And I'm not trying to shy away from my own ignorance now, but I don't think I can be blamed. You have already set out what was in the way, military rule largely. I grew up in the military era and I only knew about democracy in 1999. That's when I experienced it firsthand. And I was out of, what was I? 1999, I'm trying to remember. I was just wrapping up secondary school. So what did I know? But I mean, that's the experience of many Nigerians, sadly. We're going to have to take a break now. When we come back, we were talking about, I mean, I picked something about, you know, being female and being as outspoken as you are, you know, combining that is extremely important considering the fact that we're also in Women's Month. I don't know if you do. Yeah, so I'd like to explore a bit of that when we come back from the break. So please, if you're listening and watching this conversation, don't go anywhere.
Thank you.
Can't you hear our children crying? Why doesn't it break your heart? Can't you see our people dying? When did this world get so dark? We're not perfect, but we're trying. We all need to play a part, 'cause things will never change. It'll always stay the same until we do something about it. Talk and do, we need to just stop talking about it. We must talk and do. Why don't you do something?
Yo, this is not a song, it's a statement about the state of a very lost generation. How could we let our little boys become rapists? And how could we let all of our love just turn to hatred? In the States we see cases of racism. White cops kill us cause we have black faces. And in Africa, I don't know where to begin. The same kind of murder, the same color of skin. And we don't care to use our platforms to make a difference. Prefer to drag each other on Twitter so we could trend. We filter all our Instagram pictures just to pretend like we're happy. True happiness only comes from within. And I don't watch the news cause it's all bad. Different days, same hashtags. Different names, different victims, same flashbacks. It don't concern you. May your children never also have to say me too. Amen. They ask me why I'm so consumed with community service. It's cause my community's hurting, my community's dirty, no one bats an eyelid. Cause everyone thinks it's someone else's problem to fix. And everyone prefers not to delve into politics. So why are we upset that the system's so full of the nation that we need is our responsibility. The country we wanna see, it starts with you and me.
Something about it, talk and do. We need to just stop talking about it. We must talk and do. Why don't you do something about it? Talk and do. We need to just stop talking about it. We must talk and do. Why don't you do something?
Where is the love? Where is the patience? Urobo Ibo Idoma, what is the difference? It done it too much, talking, looting and violence. Repeating the same thing, if you check, I'm not madness. We need a solution, time for some action. Too much talku committee, no they function. The answer we dey find, it dey inside me and you.
Okay.
Now it's time for all of us to talk and do.
Come on.
Talking on the change anything. This is not the time for action.
Yes.
Talking on the solve anything.
Timi, Dakolo. Let's go.
So talking on the change anything. This is not the time for action. Talking on the solve anything.
This place my home. This place my home.
No place like home.
We not gonna fit the blame of the leaders of the yesterday.
Talking on the solve anything.
Do something. Oh yeah, now give them. Take us home.
Yes, we're back, right?
Yes, we are.
What a beautiful song. Even though, I mean, and this is on a very light note, no one should really take this out of context. That song is a personal affront to my profession. What do you mean by talking is not talking doesn't solve anything? What do you mean by that?
Your talking has action inside. Don't take it like that. Your own talking has action inside, don't worry.
Well, that's very comforting.
Yes, it does. And the truth of it is this, and I say this because when you watch, I mean, for me, it's one of the things where I like you as a journalist and as a person. Your belief comes through in your questioning and in the way you pose your questions, because you are, in a sense, your end is clear. Like what you're trying to get to is clear. Like clarity. What are you saying? Does it make sense? Are you listening to yourself? It's what your questions aim to tease out. And for me, that's action, because within your profession, you're doing what your profession allows you to do, rather than asking soft questions like, oh, Your Excellency, it's so nice to see you. You look very nice.
I do that too.
You have to start the conversation. And then
of course, I do this. It's so good to see you. How you? We even lost a bit of weight. How are you doing? Okay, then let's talk about it. But I think it's all a journey in evolution. We have learned that as we go through this, there are many ways. As my mother would say, there are many ways there are many routes to the market. The most important thing is for us to get to the market at the end of the day. So, and I think that's where we appreciate what it is that EiE has done. When I was talking about owning and honing, but by honing, I meant like refining your space, honing your skills, honing the person that you have become. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? The same way you carve out, and that's the context I was using that word. But I've also found out that as women, it would seem that there are particular paths meant for us. And I don't know if that has been your experience, considering the person who you are, considering the fact that you say things as you see them, considering the fact that you take no prisoners when it comes to issues of governance, and you spare no one, be they friend or foe, because at the end of the day, what matters to you is getting good governance. How have you been able to marry that with being a female in our context in Nigeria, especially when you also consider culture, respect, and all of that? How have you been able to marry that, and come to where you are right now? And you also tell us where you are. I want to know where you are.
I think, and great kudos to my father and my mom. It wasn't a framing that I grew up with. So it wasn't anything that I was consciously carried into the space. I've become more conscious because people ask questions or people react in certain ways. Especially to your point, a lot of politicians are male, a lot of public officers are male. So there's sort of sometimes that look or the comment about the fact that as a woman, or that's the one I'm looking for. I guess the most popular one is that I'm acting like a man. And to that, I'm always like, what does that mean exactly? That I can talk, I'm using my voice, and I'm asking you a question. Is that what it means to be acting like a man? Or because I'm not, I don't know. I mean, I like comfort in my life. I tell people Nigeria is stressful enough as it is. I'm not trying to wear high heels, trying to do makeup, trying to wear skirts. I don't have energy, don't have time. And so it's not to any, just as you say with the profession, it's not to anyone who does that because they want to, but I feel no personal burden that I must dress a certain way. I dress for comfort. So I think that as well comes across in this whole, you're acting like a guy, because also I'm most comfortable in jeans and t-shirt because it's easy. I don't have to think. Jeans, black t-shirts, I'm good. And then also by virtue of nature, my hair doesn't grow a lot. So I also decided very early, I don't like wearing wigs. So since the hair has refused to grow, let's just cut it and be okay with life. Again, so my physical appearance, which is due to convenience on my part, for most people, they assume it's a deliberate attempt to communicate in a particular way, and that's their own headache. But it's absolutely not. It's just convenience and ease. So in comments around acting like a guy and the way I dress, I hear it then. But other than that, it's not, to be honest, something I am mindful, I'm deliberately mindful of. Let me put, if I want to put it that way. A friend of mine was teasing me the other day that maybe if I did try to dress a bit more feminine, that would actually help. But I honestly can't be bothered. I can't.
Well, I see a few questions here. When I was talking about you being feminine, it wasn't so much about your dressing. I think that anybody who knows you has come to accept you the way you are. It's about how you go about what it is that you do. Have you ever been accused of being too aggressive?
Definitely.
Yes.
But I guess my point is that it does, and sorry, maybe I didn't communicate because it's not something, because I've owned who I am. Comments like that just literally fly over. So I hear it, I note it, but it's like water off a duck's back. So I don't internalize it, nor dwell too much on it. So I can't I'm not in a place where I can give you examples. So I know people have commented on it, and that's why I say when people say I act like a man. So I think that was my umbrella phrase for a lot of those comments, but I just sort of ignore it. It doesn't really affect me any which way.
I'm also going to get a bit personal here. How do you think this has affected your more personal life? I don't know, have you seen, I don't know, maybe it's part of the sacrifice you've had to make in terms of settling down. I don't know, is it a personal choice?
It's not actually. So it's not, let me put it this way. I'm not averse to say, I do want to get married and I actually do want to have kids. So it's something that I'm actually looking forward to. And so when Dakolo asked the question, I said that, yeah, it's affected my social life and to a degree affected a personal life. I mean, I dated a guy for a period and there was one conversation and we actually used to joke about it, that he needed to have a lawyer on retainership so that if I ended up in jail, we'll know.
Indeed. Indeed.
Then also, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I want you to finish your thoughts on that.
Oh, and also, he was also affiliated with a political party. So he would get calls when people would see me on TV and people would be like, this is your girlfriend that's abusing our party. We have to do something about this. So that was also quite an interesting conversation, but yeah.
Ouch. Let me give you another one instance that I know. And this police officer became a personal friend. He's retired now, but he was in fact, he was the most senior police officer in the land at some point. And I found out much later that his wife worked with the NHRC. And I said, how did you people marry that? One person was busy committing the rights abuse. The other person had to, be on your neck, making sure that you are not abusing human rights. How did you people marry that in this house? So I can get the picture. But we see a couple of questions here behind the scenes, and I see this one from Oyebolaji Fadase. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. He or she wants to know what motivates you in the midst of all. I mean, I think that this question is getting more and more important by the day, because sometimes people lose hope or say, look, this country is not getting better. And I'll give you an instance. Obi Ezekwesili, again, I think recently she was invited to come and speak on when children were stolen from the school in Jangibe. Reached out to her. She said to come and talk about what precisely. What have I said before that you guys haven't heard that you want me to come and say again? And so it would seem that because some things just seem to be getting worse by the day, some people are beginning to say, what's the point? So in the middle of this, doing what you still do, what still motivates you in the midst of it all?
Above all, just the belief that Nigeria will get better or must get better. I'm a woman of faith, so my faith plays a huge part in my journey and in the work that I do. And I believe from the perspective of my faith that Nigeria will get better. I believe in the role of Nigeria. I mean, I tell people that it's to find a country that has been blessed with not only human but natural resources. I don't think there's any country on the face of the planet that's as blessed as Nigeria are, as uniquely blessed as Nigeria is. And secondly, I have a deep, I don't even know what the word is, a deep reaction to the fact that the people who are in positions of governance or in positions of leadership, they are not aliens. As much as we like to say they're from Sudan or Niger, they're Nigerians. So I really don't understand how you get to make my life difficult. I just have a problem with it. I have a fundamental problem with the fact that the totality of, I don't know, maybe elected officials, appointed, all of you, maybe 5,000 of you, total, get to make life difficult for the rest of Nigerians. My brain struggles to comprehend it. My entire being struggles to comprehend it. And I don't see why. There is no reason, Maupe, that Nigeria should be where it is. There's no, is it smart people we have? We have in abundance. I mean, if, as they say, if you take doctors in the UK and doctors in the US who were trained in Nigeria, not the fact that they are Nigerians, so, who were trained by Nigerian universities, if you remove them from the health sectors in both countries, there will be national emergencies in both countries. And we've seen Nigerians, I mean, there are 3 Nigerians in Joe Biden's cabinet. Nigeria on the global stage, Burna Boy just got a Grammy. So there's absolutely no reason why Nigeria should be where it is. Giant of Africa that can barely cough. We're not manufacturing vaccines. I mean, there's just too many things that no reason. My father went to University of Ibadan. When University of Ibadan was University of Ibadan, it was called University College Ibadan, part of the University College system in the UK. University College London, UCL, that parents are now looking for money and trying to get their children to go out of school. You went abroad at that time because your children couldn't get into a university in Nigeria. Ife is a shadow of what it was, and so is Ibadan and Unilag. For what reason? Because some idiots decided that they want to build a house in Dubai and South Africa and London, and that's their priority. No. It angers me to my core that some people think this makes sense, that some people think this is right, that some people think that the Nigeria they want or are interested in is a Nigeria that serves them. And I mean, like, look, okay, I'm going to end on this one. Take James Ibori as a classic example. James Ibori they were going to charge James Ibori in Nigeria. We frustrated the legal system that nothing could stick. Interpol picked him up. He was tried in the UK, found guilty. They found £4 million. That's one Nigerian. £4 million that he had stolen or laundered, mix of money, business, and stealing money. And they're returning it to Nigeria. And then Delta State citizens now want to get up and say the money should come to them. When the man stole the money, you didn't see anything. When they tried to pen him, you didn't see anything. When he returned to Nigeria from jail, you gave him a hero's welcome. England now did the work to get £4 million. You now say it's your money. Are we okay? Really, are we okay? So, and James Ibori is an elder statesman. I don't get it. So yes, what would be anger? I'm just irritated. I don't understand. Why?
To think his political dynasty is still in office. So no, well. I mean, it's all exhausting mentally. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Hello? Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. I was afraid for a moment that I lost you again. I see the questions are pouring in thick and fast now. I can see this one from, there's a question I'm going to take last, which I see here. Patrick Madu Deme wants to know what the most challenging moment you've had leading EiE for over a decade is.
To be honest, I would say it's the resources to do the work. As I said earlier, I'm easy. My uniform is easy. I have the privilege of being able to live at home, so I don't have to pay rent. But I think that is part of, this is your point about what you said earlier about democracy. For the work that EiE has done over 10 years, the truth is I expected more people to support the work that we do financially. And I say it all the time. I have friends who work at Mobile, who work at GTB. They will not get on the street to protest because your job is at stake. And I understand that. People have to do that work. But I don't understand you not being able to then use the money that you make to support those of us who then do this work. But my friends know me. They don't call me to whine about Nigeria. I don't do whining. You can't get on the phone with me and say you want to whine about the problems of Nigeria, because I will ask you, when was the last time you donated to EiE? Or is it that you have a program you think we could do that you want to volunteer your time in? Some of my friends in oil and gas, if I send them some of the documents we're doing, I say, based on your insider information, can you please look at this for me and let me know maybe what angle we should come across from or how we can frame this differently? And they contribute their time. I value that because I know that that's what they can do. And for the work that we've done over 10 years, I think for me, that'll be the most challenging. And I think to that song, and that's what I mean by talk and do, that a lot of people that will call and say, oh, you guys are doing fantastic work, but the work won't do itself. We have to pay rent. I have to pay salaries. So the disconnects in that if we understand that we're all on this game to educate Nigerians so they understand their rights and responsibilities, so they can use their voice and we can amplify this thing, then we must be ready to invest in this thing. It's not going to come. Look, I say this all the time. If not for foreign donors, Pierre Media at the time gave us money. Pierre Media is the founder of eBay. He's based in America. He's funding governance in Nigeria. If Pierre wakes up tomorrow and decides he wants to be doing dolphins, that he wants to be saving dolphins, that he doesn't care about governance in the world, that dolphins is his thing, it's his money. He worked for it. He can decide to do whatever he wants. And if you look at it, not just for EiE within the space, we're funded by the likes of Pierre Media, MacArthur Foundation, an old American family, Ford Foundation, Ford Motors, old American family, Rockefeller Foundation, old American money family, Osiwa, Open Society, George Soros, current billionaire, his money. So those are the people that fund CSOs in Nigeria, Bill Gates. It's their personal money that they've worked for, but they decided they want to do good. In Nigeria, we have Dangote, who funds, he funds, but his funding is not very structured. So Aliko Dangote gives money when he feels like giving money. T.Y. Danjuma is a bit more structured. He focuses on Taraba and Edo, where he has ties. Tony Elumelu also a bit structured. He focuses on entrepreneurship. So we don't have as many structured foundations. And then you have the bilaterals, the UK Development Agency, US Development Agency, the EU. If we take these people out of the ecosystem of funding nonprofits in Nigeria, a lot of the work that's being done on sexual and gender-based violence will get no funding. EiE's work on governance will get no funding. A lot of work in the health space, education will get no funding. So as Nigerians, this is where the talk and do is. We must be ready to put our money where our mouth is. Otherwise, we can. So yes, I can be angry for all of you. I can freely protest for all of you, happy to do it. But you must be willing to support this work. Otherwise, politicians, when they want to run for office, they raise money amongst themselves, steal our own natural resources, and use it to run for office. We must be willing to invest in nonprofits to get them to a position where we are educating Nigerians at scale. At scale. As I said earlier, we use social media because it was cheaper. But the social media space is now getting very politicized, so it's even harder to educate on it. We've pivoted to radio. We've made significant progress because people do listen to radio in different parts of the country. But we need to do this more. Another constituency I'm really pushing on is religious institutions. Look, people will listen to their pastor or not listen. They will hear their pastor more than they will ever hear President Buhari, plus their governor, plus any of the people that represent them. That's just the nature of religion. So how do we use these platforms? And it's not partisan anything. The churches will say they're not political. Of course we are political. Everybody is involved in politics in one way or another. We're just not doing partisan politics, but you must educate your people on how to engage, what democracy means, as you said, what their rights are, so they can own those rights and demand better for their lives, instead of waiting for God to bring light. Electricity is there. You just need your dam to work and your minister to do the right thing. It's not God's wahala. He's not coming down to fix it at all. Sorry.
Amazingly, I don't know if you've seen my promo I run on hard copy, where you have even the minister. It was then the Minister of Power, by the way, when he says there's too much God in everything that we do, in Nigeria. God, we haven't done our part. That's a former minister. Well, he's still a current minister, but former Minister of Power, Babatunde Fashola. So it is very interesting. You're seeking to see how you can involve the pastors. I'm looking forward to see how that engagement will go. I think that you've used one stone now to kill many birds, because Dakolo is also asking, what is the way forward? How can we get more results than we currently see? How can we get more wins in governance? Is it really getting the right people to run for office or stay at the sidelines and demanding? Okay, so maybe there's another angle there, because once you've talked about investing in what it is that you want, but there's also an addendum to this question, which is the route getting the right people to run for office or staying at the sidelines and demanding? What do you say to that?
All of the above. Because, I mean, as I said, the total number of offices to run is 5,000. So even if you get it right 5,000 people, hallelujah. But you need people outside to understand who to vote for. EiE, I think to now, we've probably done 25 debates, the only organization to have done that many. And I believe it, even though people have told me it's a waste of time, but I believe so fundamentally, and the station you work with, Maupe, has been a huge supporter of debates. I believe that we must get to the point where people are able to compare candidates. We are far from it because we're still dancing at rallies and all of that. But we will get to the point where people are listening to what people have to offer and they can compare it. So it's a platform, for example, that religious institutions can play in. So when you get to vote, who is speaking in a way that aligns with your values? Who has competence? Who has character? Who has courage to do the difficult things? Who has compassion as a human being? Because when they see poverty, they are compassionate and want to do something about it. So you need people to understand the type of people they want to lead them. You need good people to go into governance and in politics and run for office. You need people to want to be willing to work for government. And that means our civil service needs to be revamped. That's also an inside out thing so that the best, I mean, they talk about Singapore all the time, that it's the best that go into civil service in Singapore. At a point in Nigeria, working in civil service was also the best of our best in that sense. So we need all that to come in. But so let's never think of it as just one prong. All of it works together for what we're looking for. And it starts even in small communities, even just engaging the people. So the current person who represents you, getting that person to be better is even part of it, because sometimes they just don't know. As I said, the first time I called my senator, it never occurred to him that a constituent like myself could call him and ask him questions. He found it insulting and he was upset until I said, okay, calm down. I'm not here to fight. I just want to know. After that, every time I now call him, I say, my sister, how are you? What can I do for you? The first day I went to my local government office in Ikeja, they didn't know what to do with me. Are you a journalist? No. Are you a So why are you here? Well, I live in Ikeja. I just wanted to ask some questions about the local government. They did not know what to do with me. After they had sat and tried to whatever, they just took me to one room where they had stacked from floor to ceiling, nicely glossy brochures of the different things they had done. And so they were giving me glossy brochures. That's how they knew to engage me. They didn't know any better. So those are parts of the ways that we get people to also understand. So it's a journey, and we just must be committed to realizing that we deserve better. Okoyemi Abimbola, I'm so clear about it, that I deserve better. And there's nobody from president to local government chairman that has any right to make my life difficult. We will scatter this place together until everybody's has received sense. All of us.
You know, sometimes I say to my husband, we die here. When he says, look, girlfriend, this thing doesn't look like it's getting better, or shouldn't we be organizing a second passport? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I'm sure you have lots of friends, many Andrews in your life who have checked out. Has it ever crossed your mind? And what do you say to people who are constantly thinking about it?
For those who are, I mean, the truth of the matter is, in a lot of ways, there are people in Nigeria now that cannot fulfill their potential, and that's the truth. And I'm clear about that. And so, if opportunities open up that allow you to go to other countries so you can be the best version of yourself, I completely support it. What I don't like is you then talking down on those of us that choose to stay in Nigeria that we don't have sense. That one I don't condone. So you want to go and live your best life, feel free. 1, 2, for those who do stay behind or want to stay behind, then roll up your sleeves and let's make this place work. I know people who've left just for better life. People are concerned about their children, for one. And so for your husband, I don't blame him. Just looking at opportunities for children to learn and be their best, to be able to compete globally. There are just some things that being in Nigeria makes very difficult. Is it the child that has 24-hour light and high-speed internet that you turn on lights for 1 hour a day and you're amazing entire? How do they compete? Because the way they think will be completely different. So for those who can and who I do support it. A dear friend of mine used to, anytime one of his colleagues will come and sit with him who ran a business and talk about leaving, he will spend time trying to get them to stay and encourage them. He says now when they come, he's the one that sits down and says, what do you want? Is it Canada you're looking at, or is it Australia? What do you need from me? How can I support? Do you need money for the application? That he's now like, you know what? No, let me not stop anybody from pursuing what is best for them. And I'm in that boat as well. But don't just abuse those of us that choose to stay back.
So based on that, well, two quick questions, and I think you have to answer this as quickly as you can. Based on hindsight, what could you have done better? I don't know if, yeah, I'm sure there must be moments when you retrospect and you must say, well, maybe there's certain decisions that we shouldn't have taken, or I don't know. How would you like to answer this?
Easiest one is that I should have determined much earlier what this path is. Because I just went on, as I said earlier, I just sort of went on year. I should have determined much earlier, like, okay, Yemi, this organization is now an organization. You are now in it. What is your time path? Are you giving it 2 years? Are you giving it 3 years? What do you want? What, as in decided, what do you want to do? And how do you see it playing out? Because what invariably happened, because I didn't have a plan, I just kept going until I then had that conversation. But I had that conversation much later than I should have.
So do you have a time frame within which you're staying with EiE now?
My priority now with EiE is to get it to be financially sustainable, because I'm very clear that whoever comes in after me to lead it will not have my same conviction. As I said, my ability to lead and pay salaries was a function of my faith. I'll just tell God that I don't know what you're going to do. And partially also having the networks to beg, borrow to make sure that I could. Now, anybody that comes in, I don't expect them to have that level of burden that I do. So my goal is to ensure that EiE has enough money for 2 years to pay salaries, even if we don't get any grant or any additional support, so that whoever comes in after me can focus on running the organization without worrying about paying salaries. So once I have that, I look forward to a second career as an academic.
You know, something occurred to me when you talk about investing in what it is that we believe in, and how, you know, we haven't put our money where our mouth is. Don't you think that it's because people do not understand that? I mean, we've seen that happen. I go to an Orthodox church, and for many years we're funded by Rome. But shortly after, Rome decided that, look, you guys are a middle-income country by what it is that you earn, and we're going to withdraw, you know, we're going to win you off free money, so to speak. And we had to fend for ourselves. And it is obvious that a lot of churches in Nigeria, especially Pentecostal churches, they're doing pretty well, so to speak. Do you think it's a lack of understanding of what needs to be done? Because we saw, for instance, during this Enough is Enough protest. No, it wasn't Enough is Enough. It's the NSAS protest, that people were willing to give if there was a network. Do you think that we just haven't explored fully and made people understand that this needs some backing, and, you know, it will not always be done for us?
Very
nice.
What are your
thoughts on that?
Yeah. A really good question to sort of wrap up on. I think it's a bit of both. Nigerians want a quick fix, which is why we pray for a Messiah, somebody who will just come and just fix everything. So it's the same way they responded to NSAS. It was a protest, they had shut down the road, so people thought, yes, everything will suddenly be okay. How is everything going to be okay? We're in a democracy. So unless you are voting out Buhari or Sanwo-Olu, nothing, like the individuals in government are not going to change, regardless of NSAS from now till tomorrow. But for a lot of people, the mindset was that the protest meant that something would change. There would be a shift of sort of seismic proportions, that everything will be sorted. So they wanted to contribute to that, in addition to obviously contributing to medical care and legal aid, but it provided something that they could be a part of. I remember the conversations I had when people would forward sort of the WhatsApp messages to donate to Feminine Coalition. And I mean, I know some of the ladies there was in a few WhatsApp groups with some of them during that time and supported their work. But when people send me that, I said, yeah, he's looking for money too. And I had no guilt in saying that. Because to my mind, I said, EiE has been here for 10 years. And funny enough, last year when we turned 10, in the office, what we wanted to do was do a protest. We thought it would be nice to have another protest to mark when we started and sort of draw attention to the same issues. But we were very clear that if we called a protest, if there was not a trigger event, the same people would show up, but it wouldn't have the national impact that we wanted. So we shelved the idea. So when NSAS came up, we were all quite excited in my office that yes, we got our 10th anniversary protest, even though we didn't call for it because it was national, there was a trigger. So when people would send me requests to give Feminine Coalition money, I would say no. That means if I'm looking for money. So, but when people asked me about it, when I sent a WhatsApp, so I sent it to a few people. I put both there. I said Feminist Coalition is coordinating legal aid. They're coordinating all of that. And this is their account information. But feel free to also give to EiE. And this is our account information. So when I sent it out, that's what I put. So I think it's also a reflection of how we see what is needed to be done. It's not a quick fix. There's so much rot in how we think and the institutions in Nigeria that it's not going to happen overnight. And an easy example is recent National Human Rights Commission. For 6 years, President Buhari refused to give it a board, a governing council. He just did it 2 days ago. And that was one of the demands of NSAS from October last year. So again, a good thing, but just an example that these things are not instantaneous, if I want to use that word. So, and for churches, I'm a church girl, so I say this with a bit of caution, especially the Pentecostals. The Catholic Church understands the role of church in society very clearly. You see it in the works of people like JDPC. The Catholic Church is easy to, they're quick to protest and get on the street if they think something is wrong. The Catholic Church is behind institutions like Lagos Business School. So they understand the mix of church and society. Anglican Church a little bit, Pentecostal Church not at all. And that is where a lot of Nigerians that could be vocal and influential, that's where they are. And that's where a lot of work needs to be done. Luckily, that's where I am. And it's an institution I'm enjoying engaging to let them understand that even biblically, the church is meant to influence society. We're not meant to stand aside and watch society go to flames and say, just come here and pray. No. And I'm hoping that the pandemic and what that has done into how church people have called out to the church, how they are impacting society, how the dynamics of church services has changed, that would influence how they respond.
Well, Yemi, it's been wonderful speaking with you. We have to wrap this up. It would seem that you've also tried to tell me, Mark, where we have to go. I don't know. I'm sincerely hoping that we've been able to answer all the questions that you guys have posed. Yes, we answered Oyebolaji, Father Say. We also, I think that somewhere in some of your responses, you've answered quite a few people. You strike me, and I think you said it, that you are incredibly optimistic about Nigeria. Did I get that right?
Definitely, very much so. If I wasn't, I would have angered.
Differences, despite maybe you just have a close in line on this one from Adrian about how do we get over the barriers of religion and military rule. Maybe I should add to this one ethnic differences as well, even though oftentimes people say that's superficial. But when you travel from north to south, you can see that there's a huge difference from the north of this country to the south of the country. Are you optimistic that we will continue to remain one united entity?
We can be united, but we must renegotiate the terms. We must. It's like it's a requirement for this unity. Look, my dear friend Aisha Yusufu says this thing, that one Nigerian cannot be more Nigerian than another. And that's what we have. Reality or perception. But they say perception is cognitive reality. So that's what a lot of Nigerians feel, that one part of the country has an advantage and other parts of the country are not as advantaged. So until we are clear about the terms of our engagement as Nigerians and everybody is okay with that, either through a new constitution or through whatever structure we want to do this, we must agree on our terms of engagement. And then that will determine if we are one happy, united country or everybody's going their separate ways, doing their own thing. I think we're stronger together, but that strength is in equity, not in the very this lopsided federal. We're not, we say we're federal, but we're a unitary state, and a unitary state cannot work. with different ethnic groups and different priorities. If Sanwo-Olu wants to be paying his staff, civil servants, 100K per month, and the governor of Jigawa wants to be paying his staff 20K per month, and everybody in Jigawa is okay with that, why is that my headache? If you want to go to Jigawa, go and live there. And if you're in Jigawa and you want to better for your life, move down to Lagos and abide by Lagos rules. It's not by force. But this one that we must nationalize everything, same state police, Maupe, don't get me started. Like this whole thing of putting a university in every state, for what bloody reason? Why? Because we are sharing, as my father says, we're sharing universities like constituency projects. I mean, for the love of God, it's a university, a center of learning. And so because we want to be fair to people in Jigawa and fair to people in Katsina, when nobody there wants to go to university, we decide we want to put a university in every, no, nobody. You mean, I'm speaking generally, but when the demand of education is quite different and the resources we don't have, we want to now ensure equality by putting university in every state. Really? Really? So yes, we must negotiate our terms of a what's it called? Whatever it is, of alliance. Let me put it that way. For there to be peace. Because if people don't feel that there's justice, we will not have peace. And security will continue to be an issue if there's no justice.
Indeed. And I think it's a fine place to leave it, Yemi. It's been wonderful speaking with you tonight. I have enjoyed speaking with you. I thank you so much for indulging my lateness. I'm so sorry about it one thing. And I thank everyone who's participated in this conversation. Once again, I congratulate Enough is Enough on the 11th year and you on your 10th year. And I look forward to further engagement with you on TV. I haven't spoken with you in a long time. Maybe that's because you've been stolen now by our rival. Yes, I see you on Sundays. Yes, you're laughing there.
I'm a freelancer, so whenever, happy to come and have a comment. But
yes, I mean, yeah.
I just wanted to speak. Thank you, Philip, for showing it. Just a reminder about this. This image for me captures a lot about why I do what I do. I mean, once the people determine that they want something to change, all this, the man on the other side, he knows what will happen to him. So that's all I'm with.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts in the most candid manner. And I have to thank everyone. Is there anything else I'm supposed to do?
No, that's it. You've done.
Okay. Let me also thank my tailor. Believe it or not, I'm holding this in my tailor's office. Yeah, she's made me be able to keep this commitment. So please, when you see her, when you come to Abuja, you ask me who she is. I'm very happy to recommend her to you any day. Thank her for me, I beg. She's made this really beautiful for me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very, very grateful. And all the best. I look forward to further engagement with you, Yemi.
Definitely.
All the best to EiE as well.
Thank you very much, Maupe. And thank you everyone for listening to my EiE journey over the last decade. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, everyone. And my EiE team, thank you very much, guys, for making this work, or making the dream work, as they say. God bless you.
God bless you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Here we stand as a people with one song, with one voice. We're a nation undivided and poised. We will take a stand and build our land in faith to defend what is ours. Here we are as a people with one heart for one cause. We're determined to rebuild and restore. Where freedom rise and truth prevails, our land for us all. Our land where there's hope for us all. We're a great nation. Oh, oh.